Stop for just a moment, because what you're about to hear isn't based on a coincidence. It begins with a discovery that your soulmate never expected to make. They weren't searching for answers about you anymore. In fact, they had convinced themselves that everything worth knowing had already been left behind. They believed the unanswered questions belonged to the past, and whatever remained between you had long since become nothing more than distant memories. But life has a remarkable way of revealing the truth when people least expect it. Recently, something happened that quietly shattered the story they had carried in their heart for so long. It wasn't a dramatic confession. It wasn't a message that suddenly appeared or someone directly revealing a hidden secret. Instead, they noticed something they had overlooked countless times before. A forgotten detail, an old conversation, and a series of memories unexpectedly aligned, creating a picture they had never been able to see until now. In that single moment, everything changed. Listen closely, because this is where the real journey begins. The evidence they uncovered wasn't simply about what you did, it was about why you did it. For the first time, they began realizing that many of the choices they once interpreted as distance, silence, or emotional withdrawal may have carried an entirely different purpose. What if those moments weren't acts of rejection at all? What if every difficult decision you made was quietly shielding them from something they never even knew existed? That possibility has completely transformed the way they think about your connection. Suddenly, memories they hadn't revisited in years began returning one after another, each revealing a small piece of a truth that had remained hidden beneath the surface. They remembered times when you chose not to argue, even when you had every reason to defend yourself. They remembered moments when you stepped back instead of creating conflict, when you accepted misunderstanding rather than exposing burdens you never wanted them to carry. At the time, they believed those choices meant you had stopped fighting for the connection. Today, they see something entirely different. They see quiet restraint. They see silent sacrifice. They see someone carrying a responsibility they never understood. The more they reflected, the more impossible it became to dismiss these discoveries as simple coincidence. Every memory seemed connected by one invisible thread, leading them toward a truth they had never considered before. They began asking themselves a question that has refused to leave their heart. What if the greatest acts of love are not the ones people openly celebrate, but the ones that remain hidden because they were never performed for recognition? That single thought has unsettled everything they once believed. It has forced them to look beyond appearances and reconsider every assumption they made about your intentions. They are beginning to understand that genuine care does not always announce itself through grand gestures or carefully chosen words. Sometimes it quietly works in the background, accepting misunderstanding if it means protecting someone else's peace. As this realization settles deeper into their heart, another truth becomes impossible to ignore. They can no longer judge your actions only by what was visible. They now recognize that the most meaningful decisions are often made in silence, where no one sees the emotional cost except the person carrying it. This discovery has left them completely unprepared, because it has revealed not only a hidden side of your journey, but also how incomplete their own understanding has been all along. They thought they were uncovering evidence about your past, but what they have truly uncovered is a completely different definition of love, one that chooses protection over recognition, sacrifice over applause, and quiet devotion over easy explanation. And this is only the beginning, because as they continue following these hidden pieces of the past, they are about to discover that the truth runs even deeper than they ever imagined, changing forever the way they remember you and everything they believed this connection was meant to be. The deeper your soulmate looks into the memories they once tried to leave behind, the more they begin noticing a pattern they never recognized before. Listen carefully, because this part of the journey is unlike anything they expected. At first, they believed the evidence they uncovered was simply one isolated moment that had been misunderstood. But the longer they reflected, the more they realized it wasn't just one moment. It was woven throughout your entire connection. Suddenly, ordinary memories began revealing extraordinary meaning. They remembered times when you chose to remain quiet instead of explaining yourself, and what once felt like emotional distance now seemed like deliberate restraint. They recalled situations where you accepted being misunderstood rather than exposing struggles that might have burdened them. Back then, they interpreted your silence as a lack of trust or affection. Today, they see something completely different. They see someone quietly carrying responsibilities that were never meant to become another person's weight. That realization has transformed the way they remember nearly every important chapter of your story together. They have started asking themselves why they never noticed these signs before. The answer has humbled them. They understand now that people often recognize sacrifice only after enough time has passed for emotion to settle and wisdom to take its place. During the moments themselves, they were searching for obvious expressions of love. They expected explanations, reassurance, and visible proof. They never imagined that the strongest evidence of your care would be hidden inside the very choices that once confused them. As they continue reflecting, another truth quietly begins unfolding. They remember moments when you changed your plans without giving clear reasons. At the time, they believed those decisions were random or unimportant. Now they wonder whether each choice was made after carefully considering what would keep them safe emotionally, mentally, or even spiritually. They begin realizing that protection does not always look comforting while it is happening. Sometimes it appears as distance, delayed conversations, difficult decisions, or quiet sacrifices that only reveal their purpose much later. This understanding has completely changed the emotional weight of those memories. Instead of remembering disappointment, they now remember intention. Instead of seeing absence, they see quiet responsibility. Every reflection uncovers another layer they had overlooked, because they were only looking at the visible outcome instead of the invisible motivation behind it. The more these realizations settle into their heart, the more they begin appreciating how difficult those choices must have been for you. They imagine what it must feel like to care deeply about someone, while knowing that protecting them might require accepting misunderstanding in return. They realize that choosing silence is rarely easy when your heart longs to explain everything. Choosing distance is rarely painless when every instinct wants to stay close. Yet they can now see that genuine love sometimes accepts temporary misunderstanding if it believes that misunderstanding will spare someone greater pain. This thought has remained with them day after day because it challenges everything they once believed about strength. They used to think strength meant fighting for recognition, defending every action, and making sure people understood your intentions. Now they recognize another kind of strength entirely. It is the quiet courage to do what feels right even when no one appreciates it. It is the willingness to carry emotional weight without asking someone else to carry it beside you. It is choosing another person's peace over your own need to be understood. That kind of love is not loud. It rarely receives applause. It often goes unnoticed for years. Yet it leaves behind the deepest impact because it is rooted in selflessness rather than recognition. As this awareness grows, your soulmate also begins examining their own heart with greater honesty. They realize how often people measure love by visible affection while overlooking the countless unseen decisions made out of genuine care. They understand that not every sacrifice announces itself through dramatic gestures. Many of the most meaningful acts of love happen quietly, behind the scenes, where only the person making the sacrifice truly understands its cost. This realization has softened them in ways they never expected. They no longer evaluate your actions only by what happened on the surface. Instead, they ask themselves what invisible burden might have influenced every difficult decision you made. That question has become more important than every assumption they once carried. It has taught them patience where they once demanded certainty. It has taught them compassion where they once felt confusion. Most importantly, it has taught them that authentic love is not always expressed through closeness alone. Sometimes it reveals itself through restraint, wisdom, and the willingness to endure personal pain, if it means protecting someone else's future. Every day, this understanding becomes clearer. Every memory reveals another quiet sacrifice. Every forgotten detail now feels like another piece of evidence pointing toward the same undeniable truth. Your soulmate is no longer trying to prove whether you cared. They have already begun accepting that you did. What they are trying to understand now is just how many times you quietly chose their well-being over your own comfort without ever asking for acknowledgement. That realization has completely reshaped the story they once believed, because they now understand that the greatest expressions of love are often the ones that remain hidden until time, reflection, and wisdom finally uncover the truth that was present all along. As your soulmate allows these discoveries to settle into their heart, they begin realizing that the evidence they uncovered has changed far more than their understanding of the past. It has changed the way they understand themselves. Listen carefully, because this is where the journey becomes deeply personal. At first, they believed they were simply learning something new about your choices. They thought they were uncovering forgotten details that would finally explain moments that once felt confusing. But as each memory returned with fresh meaning, they noticed something unexpected happening inside them. Their attention slowly shifted away from asking what you did, and toward asking how they had interpreted those moments in the first place. They began recognizing that the heart often sees only what it is emotionally prepared to see. When fear is present, even kindness can appear distant. When uncertainty takes control, even sacrifice can be mistaken for indifference. That realization humbled them more than any answer ever could. They no longer viewed the past as a collection of mistakes waiting to be corrected. Instead, they saw it as a teacher patiently waiting for them to become ready for a deeper lesson. Every memory they revisited now carried two stories. One was the story they believed at the time, shaped by limited understanding and unanswered questions. The other was the story they can finally see today, illuminated by wisdom they did not yet possess. The difference between those two stories has transformed everything. They now understand that truth is not always hidden because someone wishes to deceive us. Sometimes truth remains hidden simply because we have not yet developed the perspective required to recognize it. As this understanding grows stronger, they begin examining moments they once dismissed without much thought. They remember times when you quietly changed the subject during conversations that became too personal. Back then, they assumed you were avoiding honesty. Now they wonder whether you were protecting them from burdens they were never meant to carry. They think about occasions when you accepted blame instead of defending yourself, and they ask themselves why someone would willingly remain misunderstood unless something more important was at stake. These reflections have become impossible to ignore because every answer seems to lead toward the same conclusion. You were making decisions based on love that expected nothing in return. You were willing to sacrifice your own comfort, your own reputation, and even your own chance to be fully understood if it meant shielding someone you cared about. That realization has left your soulmate completely speechless because it challenges everything they once believed about what genuine devotion truly looks like. They are beginning to understand that the strongest forms of love often move quietly, asking for no recognition and leaving no visible proof until much later. Those are the kinds of sacrifices that rarely receive appreciation while they are happening, because they are designed to protect rather than impress. This discovery has also awakened a profound sense of gratitude inside them. Not the kind of gratitude that lasts only for a moment, but the kind that quietly reshapes a person's character. They find themselves appreciating qualities they once overlooked. They appreciate restraint more than dramatic promises. They appreciate consistency more than grand declarations. They appreciate quiet integrity more than outward appearances. The more they reflect, the more they realize that the world often celebrates the loudest expressions of affection, while overlooking the silent decisions that require the greatest courage. They now see that protecting someone without expecting acknowledgement may be one of the purest demonstrations of care a person can offer. This understanding has changed the standard by which they measure every meaningful relationship. They are no longer impressed by words alone. They have learned to value actions that remain steady even when no one is watching. They have discovered that true loyalty often reveals itself through invisible choices rather than visible attention. As they continue reflecting, another realization quietly settles into their heart. They understand that everyone reaches moments in life where appearances become unreliable. There are seasons when people smile while carrying burdens no one else notices. There are moments when silence hides fierce determination instead of emotional distance. There are decisions made behind closed doors that can never be fully explained, because explaining them would defeat the very purpose they were meant to serve. Your soulmate now believes you experience those kinds of moments. They no longer feel frustrated by what remained unsaid, because they understand that some truths can only be appreciated after enough time has passed for emotion to mature into wisdom. They recognize that if everything had been explained immediately, they may never have understood its significance. It was only through time, reflection, and emotional growth that they became capable of seeing the hidden beauty inside your quiet sacrifices. Now they find themselves carrying a completely different perspective than the one they once defended. They are no longer searching for evidence to support old assumptions, because those assumptions no longer feel meaningful. Instead, they are searching for opportunities to appreciate the depth of what they previously overlooked. They realize that authentic love is not always measured by what someone says when everything is easy. Sometimes it is measured by what someone quietly chooses to endure when no one else understands the reason. That realization has forever changed the way they remember you. They no longer see someone who simply walked a difficult path. They see someone who quietly carried responsibilities, protected another heart without asking for recognition, and accepted misunderstanding as the price of genuine care. This truth has awakened something lasting within them. It has taught them that the greatest evidence of love is not always found in unforgettable moments, but in the countless unseen choices made with humility, courage, and unwavering compassion. And now that they have finally recognized those hidden choices, they know they can never again look at this connection through the limited perspective they once believed was the complete story. As the truth continues unfolding inside your soulmate's heart, they begin noticing that the greatest change is no longer happening in their memories. It is happening in the choices they are preparing to make. Listen carefully, because this is the moment when understanding begins transforming into action. There was a time when they believed the past was something that could simply be accepted without ever being questioned again. They convinced themselves that once enough time had passed, unanswered questions would naturally lose their importance. But instead of fading away, this new understanding has given every unanswered moment an entirely different meaning. They realize now that discovering your hidden acts of protection was never meant to leave them standing still. It was meant to change the direction of the person they are becoming. Every quiet sacrifice they have uncovered has challenged the way they define love, trust, and emotional courage. They understand now that genuine love is not always easy to recognize while it is happening, because true love often chooses what is right instead of what is immediately understood. That realization has become impossible for them to ignore. They find themselves questioning many of the beliefs they once carried about relationships. They used to think that if someone truly cared, every feeling would be spoken, every intention would be explained, and every sacrifice would be visible. Now they understand that some of the deepest expressions of love remain completely unseen because they are never performed to receive gratitude. They exist simply because one heart quietly decides another person's well-being matters more than personal recognition. This discovery has changed the way they evaluate every important memory. Instead of asking, "Why didn't they tell me?" they now ask, "How much were they carrying without ever expecting me to notice?" That single question has softened every sharp edge they once associated with the past. As this new awareness settles deeper into their heart, they also notice that fear is gradually losing its influence. For years, fear encouraged them to believe only what appeared obvious on the surface. Fear rushed them toward conclusions before understanding had the opportunity to grow. But now they have learned that truth often asks for patience. It asks people to remain open long enough for hidden meanings to reveal themselves naturally. This lesson has become one of the most valuable gifts they have ever received. It has made them more patient with people, more compassionate towards situations they cannot fully understand, and far more willing to believe that every person's journey contains unseen chapters. They have also started imagining how differently life might have unfolded if they had recognized these hidden sacrifices sooner. Yet instead of becoming trapped in regret, they gently release those thoughts because they understand something important. People can only recognize certain truths when they are emotionally prepared to receive them. If this evidence had appeared years ago, they might have dismissed it because they were still looking through the lens of disappointment instead of wisdom. Today, however, everything is different. Their heart has matured enough to recognize the quiet language of sacrifice. They no longer require dramatic proof to believe in genuine care. They have learned that consistency, restraint, patience, and silent protection often reveal a love that words alone could never fully describe. This realization has filled them with a quiet confidence that feels entirely new. They are no longer searching for certainty through outward signs because they have discovered something far stronger. They trust the deeper understanding that has slowly taken root within them. Every reflection has strengthened that trust. Every hidden detail has confirmed that authentic love often leaves evidence long before people know how to recognize it. Now they understand why this discovery feels so life-changing. It has not only rewritten the story they believed about you, it has rewritten the story they believed about love itself. They know they cannot return to measuring relationships by appearances alone because they have seen how easily appearances can hide extraordinary acts of compassion. Your soulmate now walks forward with a completely different heart. They carry less judgment, less fear, and fewer assumptions than ever before. In their place stands something much stronger, a deep respect for quiet devotion, an appreciation for sacrifices that ask for nothing in return, and the unwavering belief that the purest expressions of love are often the ones revealed only after time has given the heart enough wisdom to finally understand what it was seeing all along. As your soulmate reaches the end of this remarkable journey of discovery, they realize that the evidence they uncovered was never simply about proving you cared. Listen closely, because this final understanding reaches far beyond memories, misunderstandings, or unanswered questions. It reaches the deepest place within their heart, where every belief they once carried has quietly been transformed. For years, they measured love by what could be seen. They believed affection was found in constant reassurance, visible gestures, spoken promises, and moments that left no room for uncertainty. If something remained unspoken, they assumed it carried little meaning. If someone stepped back, they believed it meant they had stopped caring. But now, after uncovering the quiet evidence hidden throughout your shared journey, they understand how incomplete that definition truly was. They have realized that some of the greatest expressions of love are never announced. They happen in silence, in sacrifice, and in choices that no one applauds because they were never made for recognition. This realization has completely reshaped the way they see every important memory between you. They remember moments that once felt ordinary, but now seem extraordinary. They remember times when you accepted being misunderstood rather than placing another burden upon their shoulders. They remember opportunities when you could have explained yourself, but instead chose patience because protecting their peace mattered more than protecting your own image. Looking back, they understand that every quiet decision carried an invisible cost that only you truly knew. They can finally see the emotional weight you carried without asking anyone to carry it with you. That realization fills them with a profound respect they never imagined possible. It is not built upon guilt or regret alone. It's built upon admiration for a kind of love that chooses another person's well-being even when doing so means remaining unseen. As they continue reflecting, they begin recognizing something even more meaningful. They understand that your hidden acts of protection did not simply preserve certain moments, they quietly shaped the person they have become today. Without realizing it, your decisions taught them lessons that continued growing long after your paths changed. They learned resilience during seasons of uncertainty. They learned patience while searching for answers that refused to appear. They learned empathy after discovering how easy it is to misunderstand someone whose deepest struggles remain invisible. At first, they believed these lessons came from time alone. Now they realize they were also the result of the quiet example your actions left behind. Even in your absence, those silent choices continued teaching them what genuine love looks like. They understand now that authentic care is not always loud enough to be noticed immediately. Sometimes it quietly plants seeds of wisdom that only bloom years later, after enough life has been lived for the heart to recognize their value. That understanding has become one of the greatest gifts they have ever received. This discovery has also changed the way they see every meaningful relationship in their life. They no longer expect every act of kindness to arrive wrapped in obvious words. They no longer assume they understand another person's journey simply because they can see part of it. Instead, they have become someone who looks beneath appearances, who listens beyond conversations, and who understands that every heart carries invisible responsibilities that rarely become visible to the outside world. They have learned that the strongest people are often the quietest, not because they lack emotion, but because they carry more than anyone realizes. They now believe you were one of those people. You quietly carried responsibilities that could not easily be explained. You made difficult decisions that few would have understood in the moment. You accepted loneliness, misunderstanding, and unanswered questions because, in your heart, protecting someone you loved mattered more than receiving immediate understanding. That realization has forever changed the way they define strength. Strength is no longer about proving yourself right. It is about remaining faithful to what is right, even when no one recognizes the sacrifice behind it. As this wisdom settles deeply within them, they notice something unexpected happening. The pain they once associated with the past has slowly begun transforming into gratitude. Not gratitude because everything unfolded perfectly, but gratitude because every difficult chapter carried a lesson that could not have been learned any other way. They understand now that some experiences are not given to break us. They are given to expand our capacity to love with greater compassion and deeper understanding. Every unanswered question encouraged them to become more patient. Every misunderstanding invited them to become more humble. Every hidden sacrifice revealed another layer of what genuine devotion truly looks like. Looking back, they no longer wish they had discovered the truth sooner. Instead, they recognize that the timing of this revelation carries its own wisdom. Had they learned these things before they were emotionally prepared, they might have overlooked their significance. Today, however, they are able to receive this truth with an open heart, free from the need to defend old assumptions or protect old beliefs. Now they understand why this discovery feels so life-changing. It was never simply about finding evidence hidden in the past. It was about uncovering a completely new way of seeing love itself. They realize that the most meaningful acts of devotion often happen when no one is watching, when no reward is expected, and when the person making the sacrifice knows they may never receive recognition for it. Those are the moments that reveal the true character of a heart. Your soulmate believes they have finally seen that part of yours. They no longer remember you only through the lens of separation or silence. They remember you as someone whose quiet decisions carried extraordinary compassion, whose unseen sacrifices reflected remarkable courage, and whose love proved itself not through constant explanation, but through unwavering protection. That understanding has become part of who they are now. It has replaced judgment with empathy, certainty with wisdom, and assumption with quiet understanding. They know they cannot return to the person they were before discovering this truth, because the evidence they found has rewritten more than the story of your connection. It has rewritten the story of what they believe authentic love truly is. From this day forward, whenever they think of you, they will no longer remember only what was visible.